Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have a question from a friend of ours from South Africa. His name is Jan, or maybe it's Jan. I'm not sure. Correct me in the comments down below, and if you have questions, please leave them in the comments down below. So, I'm just going to say Jan. Jan has been sparring with his coach, and his coach has been giving him some feedback. He says that when fighting, and this is both his own and his coach's description, he's as stiff as a plank. He says, my coach likes to maneuver a lot, so that problem is being highlighted immensely. Do you have any advice for me to remember when I fight and try to be more mobile? And he goes on to say that he's struggling to find a way to handle this besides somebody just telling him, you need to get hit enough to be calm and remember things. Okay, I'm going to tell you from experience, getting hit doesn't calm you down. Getting hit a bunch of times gives you PTSD. It creates an adverse flinch reaction, not a good one. I often hear fighters and coaches talk about how to get rid of your flinch reaction, and don't. That's garbage. What you need to do instead is reprogram yourself to accept and exploit your flinch reaction. Not like those reality-based nonsense self-defense dudes do, where they say you'll bring up your arms like you're trying to do an impersonation of an elephant or something, and somehow that's magically going to allow you to survive multiple opponents attacking you with knives. No, not at all. Just, if you're sparring heavy, full contact all the time, you're going to get really tense, as stiff as a board, exactly as you put, because that is your instinct setting in. If you remove the possibility of escape, as you do in a combat sport, that's a very unnatural state to put the mind into. And so what do? We anticipate damage, and our body tenses up. Oh, this is gonna suck. So if you expose yourself to repeatedly getting punched in the face and kicked in the body and slammed in the legs with shins and all this other stuff that is going to do damage to you, your body is going to be trained to stiffen up like a board. So we need to cut that out. As I always say on this channel, hard sparring needs to be the exception, not the norm. Most of your sparring should be very light contact. Spirited but technical. Very technical. You shouldn't be doing any damage. You shouldn't be damaged while sparring. You shouldn't be injuring your training partners. And there are a number of pathways to get there to achieve that goal. One is to slow everything down and keep your hands nice and loose inside the boxing gloves when you land, so we're not landing with rocks, but more like getting slapped in the face with a leather pillow. And we can also toughen ourselves up so that, getting hit in the body or the leg or whatever isn't the end of the world if it wasn't a perfectly controlled strike. We can develop a lot more confidence in our technique so that we can get in the ring with somebody who previously might have injured us, even going at a fairly light rate, but because we are a more technical fighter now, we're able to handle that and not get hit and not get damaged by them. But leading up to that, what do we need? Tons and tons of experience, not getting hit, but moving. Moving in the context of sparring without taking significant damage. Because what does that do? It trains our mind to move freely, to move uninhibited, to express itself as opposed to hide. So do a lot of light technical sparring. If you're not doing that already, do more. And if you find yourself still stiff as a board, going with somebody very experienced but able to spar at a very light and technical level, then that's okay. Give it time and you'll relax more. But here's another tip, and I give this one a lot too. Breathe. Correct breathing for fighting is something that you're going to have to take a conscious effort to control for a while, and then you're going to get used to it, and then it will go on autopilot. You need to focus on outward breath, not inward breath. When I say breathe, everybody breathes in immediately. That's not what I'm talking about. When you're fighting, when your heart rate is elevated, when you're in a hyperventilating state, as we are when we are exercising, sparring, fighting, sprinting, whatever, the body breathes in automatically. When you are sleeping and your body needs oxygen, it goes on autopilot and sucks that air in naturally, automatically. You don't have to think about it. But when we're in that hyperventilating state, that elevated state of physical activity, you have to control the exhaling so that you, one, don't gas yourself quickly, and two, so you can relax, so you can get loose, so you can regain control of your body. Here's a really simple tip. Throw a punch, hold your breath. Okay? Now, take that same punch and hiss like a snake as you throw it. Psst. Did that feel different? Probably not a great deal. But go up to a heavy bag, hold your breath, and throw 100 punches. Okay? Now go up to that heavy bag, and while hissing as you punch, throw 100 punches again. And you'll notice, as I'm doing that, I'm focusing on the part, but when my body needs to, it'll suck in another breath of air so I don't empty my lungs, right? I didn't have to think about when to breathe in. My body just does it. Listen again for the difference between and okay? Okay? You hear that difference? Again, I don't have to think about the breathing in part. The body just does that. Get a double mouth guard. You might prefer a single mouth guard. That's okay. But for this exercise, get a double mouth guard. The one with the really narrow breathing hole. A lot of people don't like the double because they find it's harder to breathe. Because when you're in that hyperventilating state, again, we want to open the mouth wide and suck in as much air as possible, which is really a terrible habit for fighting. Especially when you're taking a body shot. You take one of those breaths, somebody punches you in the floating rib, in the liver, in the guts, in the solar plexus. Man, you're dead. You're dead, man. You need quick, short, shallow, controlled breaths, which is the only type you can take through one of those double mouth guards. So take that double mouth guard, wear it while you do your bag work, while you do any cardio that you do. Wear it while you spar if you don't already. And focus on those short, shallow, exhaling breaths. Sing yourself a little song, a little tune, while you spar about the way that you're moving, because your breath and your movement are connected. If you're stiff as a board, there's a problem with your breathing. Not just your moving, not just the mindset, not just about how much experience you have with sparring or fighting, but it's a problem with your breathing. So breathe the way you want to move. It doesn't just have to be that hiss, pss. That's a good one for punching because it is percussive. It's quick. Pss. It's kind of like making a sound effect. You might feel silly doing it, like you're making childlike karate sounds, yeah, or whatever. But there's value to that. There's a great deal of value to that. Because again, we breathe the way we move. So if you want to move slow and sustained, keep the breath slow and sustained. Ha, 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 hum. What happened when I threw that right hook there? I exhaled more deeply from my diaphragm. Hum. Right, if I throw a big heavy kick, hey, ha, ha. There's a big heavy sound that comes out from my diaphragm, not from my throat. What happens up here is fairly inconsequential. In the vocal cords, it's what happens in your guts and your diaphragm when you breathe from the bottom of your lungs and push that air up or out or in, etc. Breathe with your abs, man. When you shadow box, focus on your breathing. Focus on the sound effects, if you will. Again, not from your throat, but from your body. Breathe from your body. Ha! A lot of traditional martial artists are probably typing in the comments right now, yeah, in my style of karate or taekwondo or whatever, we shout words of power along with our strikes. Kya! Right? And we do that for that same reason. And that's absolutely true, right? Why do traditional martial artists shout when they move? Well, there are a few reasons, but one of the most important ones, probably the most important ones, is to make sure that they are breathing correctly to execute that move. So focus on your breathing. Another thing I would recommend, a third thing, besides get more experience, fix your breathing, film yourself. Film yourself when you spar, film yourself when you do bag work or pad work, and also when you do shadow boxing, and watch it and review it. Look for commonalities. Do you move differently when you spar than when you do shadow boxing? Do you move differently when you spar as opposed to when you do bag work? I put up a short clip of me doing some heavy bag work a while back, and I got this interesting comment from this guy who said, I don't understand the way you're doing heavy bag work. It looks like you're trying to emulate a fight, like you're doing all this footwork and you're bobbing and weaving and you're cutting these angles and stuff. When I get on the heavy bag, I just hit it as hard as I can until I feel tired. So why do I use the heavy bag like that, as if I'm trying to emulate a fight? Because that's exactly what I'm doing. Because you will perform the way you practice. And if you get on the heavy bag, and you do something radically different than what you are doing or what you want to do in a fight, there is a massive incongruency there, and we need to fix it. So, to recap those three things, get more experience with tons of light contact technical sparring. 2, fix your breathing, breathe the way you want to move, focus on the exhaling. And 3, film and evaluate yourself and align your training with your sparring. Hope that helps. Keep me updated. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.